Well, welcome to the podcast. And today I have Pastor Jeff Arnett with us, and he has been pastoring more than 40 years. And not only
That's why I look like I do.
No, you look great. You look amazing. And not only has he pastored for 42 years, I believe, right? 42 years now. He founded the church in Michigan. And he's a founding pastor of that church. And not only that, but you also have 6 kids.
Again, that's why I look as old as I look.
And a beautiful wife named Anne.
Yes.
So you've led a church, which is a very successful church. I mean, if you're listening to this, Pastor Jeff and I were both pastors. And we would say in the realm of churches, I would consider that to be a very successful church, because you brought it from, as a founding pastor, you brought it from almost nothing in a sense of the amount of people that were there to now you have in the thousands of people being impacted by that ministry. So I would say in our, whatever your background might be, in our background, that would be a lot of success. But today we want to talk about masculinity. And so the reason I'm saying all of these things about where your background is because you've seen a lot over the years. You can attest to this word of manhood or masculinity within the church, in the community. And you've lived long. So that also helps. That also helps.
I'm not going to argue that.
So tell me, and we're talking about culture here, tell me where we are going wrong with masculinity in the years that you've lived. I'm pretty sure you've seen the change in how we define what a man ought to be. Or how to define, let's start by saying that, how do you even define a man nowadays? It's, I would say, different than when you were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the line between the sexes was very clear when I was young. And of course, there's a lot of changes in how people perceive all that these days, and a lot of agendas in our culture.
Yeah.
And I don't need to go there, but it does impact how men are viewed or view themselves.
Yeah.
And of course, some of it probably is good. Some of it we needed to change because men were in some ways kind of restricted. The masculinity was you're tough, you're you're brutal, you get things done, and there's good to that, and there's also negative to that. So I think as I've watched over the years, things that concern me have to do with how do men see themselves? Do they see themselves as it's okay to be a man? Is it right to be a man?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of question about that now.
Yeah, certainly.
And personally, and I'm be interested to hear your perspective, but I think you should know that if you are a man, you should be a man.
Come on. I like that. But you said you didn't want to go there. When you said you didn't even want to go there, tell us a little bit of that so that our audience can understand what do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of agendas out there today in terms of sexual identity. And so people launch off into this. I mean, I've experienced this in countless different ways. And my goal as a pastor has always been to love people where they are and to not beat up on them. But I think Scripture is very clear. I absolutely stand that God created us as a man and as a woman.
Oh my goodness. Can you repeat that again, please? Nowadays, we have like so many titles out there.
Yes.
I'm confused, frankly.
Yes.
I'm confused. I don't even know the alphabet, the spectrum of it. I've lost count already.
Honestly, I think everybody's confused because I think there's not clarity. And of course, that comes from a culture that increasingly does not have a foundation to rest on. So if it's just what you think is best or what other people have told you is good, if it doesn't have a basis of, for example, Scripture, then everything becomes confusing. So I think everybody's confused about it. You know, who is what and how does that work? But of course, as followers of Jesus, we understand the power of Scripture and how it speaks to us, and that's our foundation for how we view manhood, how we view womanhood.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that. Well, we're talking about faith, right? And so there might be people that are listening to this right now, and they're not people of faith.
Exactly.
Yet, I'm just going to go a little bit further than that. I think I had Pastor Steve once here, and we had a good conversation, and he brought something to the forefront. He said, "What is, in a matter of importance, what is most important? Emotions, faith, or facts?" And I like the way that he kind of painted it out there. And he said the most important ones are facts, and then faith, and then emotions. And the reason he said facts is because sometimes we don't have the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be believing things that might not be truthful, and then your faith is founded on things that are not true.
Right.
And how can I apply it now to, let's say, masculinity and sexism, or sex? I would say that even without using the word faith, which, by the way, I do stand on that. I agree with you 100%. As pastors, we agree what the Word of God says. But let's appeal to those people that are listening to this that might not have the faith. Okay, let's just go with the facts. You're either born a man,
Right.
or a woman,
Right.
biologically speaking.
Yeah.
I studied biology. As a matter of fact, my degree is in biology at the university. It baffles me to this day. I cringe when I hear people say, "I don't know." When they ask them a question, "Are you a man or are you a woman?" And I cringe when they say, "I don't know." And these are people, how to define it, that's what they say. "I don't know how to define it."
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, "Okay, biologically explain it to me." Well, even biological is a little hard to explain. No, it's not.
Right.
So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and again, because I have people that I love deeply who have a lot of confusion around this. They don't feel a sense of clarity about it. So my goal is never to put people in their place or, well, you just don't know what you're talking about, or it's to love people where they are.
Correct.
Because in the end, you can't. And I know,
Sure.
Facts don't always convince people.
Of course.
So a lot of times there is a belief system, even if they say they don't believe.
They are believing
There's
something.
a belief system.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times people believe things that you and I would say, we don't see that. My goal is to love them, but I'm with you. Sometimes I just say, how did this get so confusing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't need a degree in biology to understand. You're born.
Yeah.
With rare exceptions, you are born with clarity.
Exactly.
On that thing. So I think it is a concern. Maybe as big a concern might be the idea that there's a lot of confusion around the difference between boys and men.
Yeah.
So, you could ask the question, for example, like, when do you become a man?
Yeah. That's huge. Yeah.
It really is, because you can say, well, it's like around 13 to, when you reach puberty.
14, 15,
Yeah, whatever that is. But really, if you look at the concepts of what is a man versus what is a boy, it's not as much about your age or how advanced you've become physically. It's about what's going on inside you, because, oh my gosh, there are a lot of guys running around in men's bodies that are boys.
Yeah, acting like boys, but they're men already, biologically speaking.
Yeah, they're biologically have grown. They're fully developed. They're strong. They're big. But emotionally, mentally, they're like boys.
Yeah, and that's what I want. I guess that's where I wanted to go to. You touched on it. Facts are facts, but then we can move into the emotional side of it and help people out and find right where they're at. Because we haven't even touched the psyche. We haven't even touched which is what you're covering right now, which is the psyche, the intellect, the emotions. And I think you just need to start, your foundation is this. This is a fact. This is where we're at. And then, okay, now let's deal with the emotions.
Male, female, one of the two.
Yeah, and then now let's deal with the emotions.
Right.
Because there's a lot of emotions there. There's a lot of psychological implications there. But let's start with the facts. Those are facts.
Right.
Okay, whatever you identify yourself with, it is what you identify yourself with. But let's start with the facts. Biologically speaking, you are a male.
Right.
Biologically speaking, you're a female. Biologically speaking, as you were alluding to earlier, you are 20 years old, but you're acting like you're 8.
Yeah.
And we got some problems. Okay, those are facts. Okay, now let's deal with the emotional side of things. What would you say, because you brought up a very good point, what would you say to someone who's listening to this and there are either parents or they are in those teenage years and they have that question and they say, well, yeah, especially with men. I think it's a little bit more difficult with men than it is with females. Females, my goodness, man, my girls are so darn advanced, man. They're playing with dolls and they're getting married already, at the age of 5. At the age of 5,
And guys are just making grunts with cars, pushing them through the dirt.
we just, we don't
fully
care.
fulfilled by that experience.
Yes, that's it.
Right.
We're just so different. And so hardly do I ever hear a female having a hard time with maturity. Most of the time, I'm not saying they are not out there, but a lot of times I do hear it and see it in young men. Mm-hmm. Not all of them, but I do see a problem in that area, in that spectrum. So what would you say to a parent, and what would you say to a young man who's going through that hard, really, it is painful for them because they don't want to be treated like a boy, but they still act like boys.
Yeah.
So what would you tell them?
Well, I think for both the parent and the son, if you will, or the teenage boy, is manhood is not something that's achieved without a certain level of effort. This is my perspective.
I like that.
Okay?
Oh, I like that.
I think that you don't become a man because you become, 16 or whatever,
That's good.
Today I become a man kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's good.
It really has to do more with the growth that happens on the inside of you. So barring some, medical issue or concern, all male boys will grow into full adult bodies, which we would look at from a distance and identify as a man.
Yeah.
But again, to what I was saying is that doesn't always mean they are a man. Sometimes they're still boys because it's not achieved by age or by a biological process. It's achieved by decisions that you make, by how you've chosen to live, and you grow into manhood.
I like that.
In Scriptures, over and over talks about we should be growing up into Christ. So growing is a process we should do our whole lives. But I think that often in guys, I see this in guys.
Yeah,
You're right.
I
don't see it as much in girls, but I see it in guys where they kind of
Cecilia.
they get hung up at adolescence, and they just don't seem to, they're like living in their parents' basement at 35 or whatever, and they're not acting with responsibility or with any kind of vision. So there is a difference, and that has to do with choices that individual makes.
Well, it seems like in your generation, it was a little bit
You mean the
easier.
prehistoric? Okay, right.
It seems maybe because you were trying to survive, and you just had to grow up faster. You had to go to work faster. I don't know what it is. You lived through that time, so can you tell us a little bit about the difference between back then? I can tell you a little bit about me growing up and how it took me a while to really mature, and it was painful. Now in retrospect, I look at it, I go like, my goodness, what was I thinking? But I see other people that it becomes easier for them. And I know that in your generation, it was just easier. It seems like.
I mean, that may be true. I'm not sure I would agree fully with you because I think every generation has its own wrestling match. I think there was a lot of confusion. It felt a little more black and white when I was a kid than it does now.
Good.
At the same time, a lot of what was defined as you do this because that's what a man does, it really wasn't like my dad, he told me, because I wanted to drink coffee, right?
That
when I
makes
was
you a
young,
man.
I
Yeah.
want to have coffee. He's like, a man drinks his coffee black, and so
Don't you dare put any milk in that
exactly.
coffee.
So there were all these sort of little things on the side saying, if you're a man, this is how you think. This is how
Yeah.
you think. This is how you think, and they may have been cultural. They may have been part of the generation of my dad's that he was passing on to me, and so there's
Yeah,
all that in it.
absolutely.
I think it's always changing, but there's probably always been, I certainly knew people who, in my generation, who it was like they stayed kind of in the boy realm for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Even though they may have had a job, even though they may have, gotten an apartment, they just
Well, that's good.
they were acting immaturely.
I would think that because they got a job, they were more responsible. They have a little place of their own. And you would think, well, they're becoming a man. They're coming into manhood.
Yeah.
But you're saying even then.
Well, yes, I'm saying even then, because manhood is, achieving maturity
Yeah.
is, again, this is my opinion, but
Sure.
in my opinion, it's really more about who you are inside.
Okay.
Are you a person of courage? Are you a person of character, integrity? Not are you able to pay your bills? Because
Yeah.
people can reach certain levels in life, but
That's good.
they don't. The way they treat other people identifies deep immaturity in them, or the way they respond in a crisis can identify you act more like a boy when this happens than a man.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah. So I think, when I was a kid, I honestly, I felt like I saw it in my own family. I had a brother who left college after 1 year because he wanted to go find himself, and literally traveled all over the country, and he'd hold jobs periodically.
This was your brother? How old was
my
he?
older brother. He was 3 years older than me,
Wow.
and when he left to do that, he was going to, quote, find himself.
Wow,
And he's
interesting.
passed away now, and I've often joked that Rick left to find himself and never came back. and of course he did, and we were able to have a good relationship in later years, but he hitchhiked through every state in the continental United States,
Really?
which is interesting. And I think in a lot of ways, I saw some wonderful things in him which said, good man. And then I saw some other things. I wonder if all of us aren't kind of a mixture. It's like,
yeah.
here you show traits
Yeah.
of a man, here you show traits of a boy, and I saw that in him. And then I have another brother, my younger brother, who from an early age, he went off to school, and now he's climbed Mount Everest. He's climbed the
Wow.
highest mountain
Wow.
in on every continent in the
Wow,
world.
that
So
is
there's only about
crazy.
450 or 500 people in the history of the world who have ever done what he has done.
my
And so you would say, well, now there's a guy who is all man.
Wow.
And mostly he is, but he's like me or like my other brother. He's got stuff in him that he would probably be honest about and say, sometimes I act like a boy in that area. So I think, masculinity sometimes, at least when I was a kid, it was identified by just certain things. You look tough.
Yeah.
You act tough.
Yeah.
It's like suck it up, act like a man. You don't let pain dominate you.
You don't cry.
Yeah, you don't cry, which I think was a tragic thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another one is like, this is going to sound crazy, and it could, maybe I shouldn't even talk about it, but like we guys, when I was a kid, you didn't touch each other.
Oh, no hugs. No.
Oh no.
Oh, my
Because if you
goodness.
did that, you were gay.
Yeah.
And so, you did not want to be the butt of all those jokes. So you didn't touch each other. And I remember I carried that with me right
Wow.
up into adulthood, and then as a pastor, and I was in Pakistan.
Wow.
And I looked out the window of my hotel, and I saw two soldiers, and I think they were carrying, like AKs or something. They got machine guns on their shoulder.
Wow.
They're walking down the road holding hands. And I was like, oh, we have those in America too, but they hide it, back then they,
Back in the day,
no,
it was, yeah.
they don't talk about it.
Well, don't.
And I realized everywhere I looked, men were showing wonderful affection. And
Wow.
actually, if you read Scripture, what's interesting is
Yeah, absolutely.
greet each other with a holy kiss.
Absolutely.
What?
Yeah, holy kiss.
No, thank
Have
you.
you done- have you-
That's like,
Well,
I'm not going to kiss a guy.
Well, Pastor Jeff, I saw you today earlier, and you didn't greet me with a holy kiss.
I did not. Because in a way, that is a culture, in our culture.
Yeah, I got you.
That was kind of like taboo.
Yeah.
And I think that's changing, and
Yeah.
there's less of that. But it's interesting because I wouldn't, like, I'd shake a man's hand, but you had
Yeah,
to
yeah.
grip it until you saw him
Firm.
wince a little bit, because otherwise that wasn't manly. But that was all like,
Yeah.
that's not masculinity. That's a cultural affectation. That's like,
Yeah.
no. And so I think we learn and we grow in these things. I really think masculinity maybe is more, do you have deep character and integrity?
Well, I like that.
Do you love people?
I like that.
Even
Yeah.
when it's hard.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think it's you're making reference to values.
Yeah.
What are those values that holds you together as a man?
Yes.
And so I heard this from John Maxwell once. He would say that this is the problem with this generation currently, is that they have no values. And it seems like they get tossed around by the wind. And it's almost like having a bag, like I don't know if you remember those bags. That's how I imagined it. They used to have not plastic bags, but the other ones almost like paper bags, and they were kind of like brown and
Grocery sack.
like a.
Old people remember those.
I suppose I'm getting there right now myself. And so they used to grab this bag. So he alluded to that. He said it's almost like having a bag, but you have nothing inside, and it gets tossed around by the wind. And values, what they are, it's almost like rocks that are being placed. Good values,
Right.
not fluff,
Right.
because you can have fluff and you'll still be you. Everyone's got values. The question is, are they good values or not good values?
Right.
And so if you don't have any good values, then you get tossed around everywhere. And that's
Right.
what I think this generation is facing a lot of, lack of good values. You
Or
mentioned
confusion about what they are. Maybe,
correct,
is
and
a
that
way
could
to
be the
say it.
case as well, which is what you mentioned earlier about integrity, about courage. And I think those are great traits for anyone that wants to be a man.
Yeah, I think, the idea that our culture has gone to the. So I don't know that this came because of advertising, in my opinion, probably more than anything else in media, is that it tells us constantly, and you know this, everybody knows this, they're telling us constantly, every day, all day long, whether it's through social, whether it's through, TV media or whatever it is, they're telling us that we deserve to be happy and to feel good.
Yeah,
And that has become the chief thing
yeah,
that we live our lives going for. Why don't men want to have a relationship? Why don't they want to get married? Why don't they want to go the distance? Well, because I might not be happy.
Yeah.
And so they chase happiness,
Yeah.
which then precludes courage and integrity and long-term commitment, because I'm going to do what makes me happy right now.
yeah. That's good. That's good.
And I think that, sadly, that has become a dominant value, really, that people put in that paper bag.
Yeah.
But it's weightless. It has nothing, because it's just, what is happiness? It's like, it's a good feeling in the moment. So I have a girlfriend, but she doesn't always make me happy. I'm not going to marry her because she should make me happy.
Yeah, and then we go around chasing skirt after skirt
Exactly.
to feel that quote unquote happiness,
Right.
the feelings of,
Yes.
and I see that a lot too, and in ours more so now. I know it's been there in our generations, throughout generations, but more so now.
I think it's we can't help it. We're fed it.
Yeah.
Almost force fed it. Every ad you look at, everything you see, it's photoshopped. It's set up to make you think this will make me happy.
Yeah.
Because there's something in us that wants to be happy, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we're chasing after it instead of walking with character, which brings it in the end.
Yeah.
So
we're chasing the product
yeah,
instead of the content.
yeah,
The end, we're chasing the end result,
right.
but we're killing the what was it? There was a goose that was popping out
Golden eggs.
Golden eggs.
Yeah.
And we want the golden eggs, but
Right.
we're not willing to put the work.
Right.
Which is what you're saying about sacrifice, about courage, about
Right.
adding those values into your life of integrity, of honesty, and it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy.
Right.
And so you got to pay the price.
At International Christian Center, we are one church in multiple locations. If you're looking for a dynamic, life-giving community in the Rio Grande Valley, visit an ICC location near you. Come to know God, find freedom, discover your purpose, and make a difference. For more information about one of our current or future locations, visit iccenter.org.
If anyone is watching right now, what would be some practical things you would tell a young man that wants to be a man and act like a man, or a parent? What would you tell them right now practically? Look, I would do A, B, C, or D to help in this process of becoming a man.
Well, obviously, there are a lot smarter people than me that don't have answers to that. But I think, I mean, I genuinely think a lot of it has to do with teaching them or challenging them to consistently do the right thing.
I like
Not
that.
because there is a reward. See, so often everything is like baited.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
got something on the hook, and it
Yeah, absolutely.
keeps pulling you in that direction. No, you do the right thing, whether or not it looks rewarding.
Yeah,
It will pay off.
yeah, I like
But
that.
do the right thing. How you treat a girl. I mean, it's always been this way, I guess. You know, young men, they're highly charged sexually, and their thought is, you know, get what you can while you can get it.
Yeah,
And do whatever you can and worry about the consequences later. Young men that do the right thing,
yeah,
that say, I will honor this girl,
yeah,
I will treat her with character and integrity, what they achieve when it's so hard to see, because the stuff, you know, I look back and think about where I sacrificed to do the right thing. Like you have kids or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
this just sucks. It's so hard. And I look now at them as adults, at them as parents, and
That's good.
honestly, I get choked up even thinking about it
Wow.
now. How stunning it is that price that I was paying at the time to just keep doing what's right. You just love those kids.
That's
you
good.
treat them with honor and respect, but you, Jeff, you have to be the one to work extra hard. You just to help them to grow. And I look back now and I realize I was doing the right thing, and it didn't feel good.
yeah, yeah,
But now I see the product, and I haven't always gone after the right thing.
yeah.
But when I have, now as an old guy, I go, it was good.
That's so good. That's good.
It was good. It was right. But see, so often, you know, we live in a culture where, you know, we swipe our finger across
Yeah.
our phone and the world's at our fingertips, and we want it all now, and we want to feel it, and we want to have good,
Yeah.
and we can play video games that make me feel all the emotions I want to feel, and then we
That
can
dopamine high.
yeah,
immediate.
we can go to porn sites, and we can
Yeah.
just, it's all like, it's there. So I'm just feeding
fast.
that part
Yeah.
of me that wants to be happy, and I'm losing sight of what makes me a man,
Yeah.
or a man of integrity, and
Character.
character.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I like that very much. I think I'm listening to a book called Compound Effect, and he talks about that, how you pay a price right now, and many times you don't see it immediately.
Yes.
And I can't remember exactly, but he makes the analogy of if I would compound a penny over the span of 31 days, or which one would you choose? The penny compounded over 31 days or the $3 million? And I thought that was remarkable, because he goes, if you chose the penny, then you're going to get more money. because it's compounding over time.
Right.
What was interesting to me was that in that analogy that he uses, which by the way is true, that you don't see the results immediately. You look at the guy who's got the $3 million after 10 days and you say, man, I chose wrong. You look at I think you make about $5,000 compounding that penny on day 15th or day 12. And you're looking at that other guy with $3 million enjoying their life.
Yeah.
And you go like, this is not working.
Right.
Like I'm paying, I'm struggling, I'm standing for what is right. I have integrity. I've been honoring this girl, but everything seems to backfire on me, right? And here's this guy who's a jerk, and he's sleeping around, and he's got all the girls that he ever wanted.
Yep.
And here I am paying the price. I only got $5,000, and that guy's got $3 million. But if you continue to pay the price, and the penny turns into $10,000, $15,000, and it's only until day 31 that it becomes 10 million plus, 3 times more than what you would have gotten.
Right. And in real life, it's generally character issues way longer than 31 days. But the principle is there.
Yes.
And that is, hang on, dude. Keep doing the right
That's good.
thing.
That's good.
When we were younger, Ann and I, my wife Ann, it was crazy because we were so broke, and actually I let her do the bookkeeping. You know, I'm supposed to be the man, but I didn't want to do it. It was horrible. It was depressing. And I would just yell at her, why don't we have money? And one day she got disgusted, and she came and she just took all the bookkeeping, she dropped it in front of me and said, it's yours, buddy. You don't like it? It's yours. And I'm like, fine.
I'll do it.
So I took the bookkeeping, and I thought, we are so screwed. This is bad. And then I got a hold of a book, How to Manage Your Money. And I read it, and I thought, this seems good, but it is going to hurt.
No, that's good, yeah.
Like, one of the things is you make the commitment, you'll never buy another vehicle on payments.
Wow.
You pay cash only. And
That kind of like the Dave Ramsey kind of thing, huh?
Well,
Dave Ramsey.
yeah, it was Larry Burkhardt or something, I can't remember. Larry Burkett.
Larry Burkett.
And he was kind of like a predecessor to
Dave Ramsey.
To Dave Ramsey's thing. And I read it and I was like, this is good, but oh my gosh, I cannot borrow money to get a vehicle? But I went to my wife and I said, I think this is the right thing to do. I think this is what we need to do. I said, this is going to hurt.
And what did she say to that?
She was all for it.
Really, was she?
She was.
Well, then again, women tend to be more mature than
she
men.
Was, she was. So we made the decision. I remember we were, cranking out kids like rabbits. So
man, you got 6 kids, man.
I had to have a station wagon. I remember I got my hands on this old station wagon that I could pay cash for, and I was like, this is a piece of crap, and I'm going to live my life driving junkers. You know what's interesting? We never borrowed another penny. We never paid another penny of interest on any consumer debt, with the exception of investment dollars, which would be real estate.
Really?
And we had our real estate paid off way early because we weren't paying interest on anything else.
That's so
and
good.
we were doing it on, I teasingly called one of my brothers. I said, you guys are, DINKs, acronym, double income, no kids. And he said, that makes you sick. Single income kids. And I said, that's right. And that's what it feels like. It feels like our life is sick because we had never had any money. But that's the interesting thing. On a very mediocre income for many, many years, we made it.
That's good.
Our kids were fed.
That's
they
good.
were clothed. And it was painful.
I love it.
And I felt like we were driving stuff that I wished we didn't have to be driving. But
and your neighbor had the nice vehicle.
Oh, everybody else.
Everyone else has the nice vehicle.
Like,
did your kids ever say, "Dad, you're so cheap"?
Only every other day, maybe, or maybe every day. I don't know.
Why are we driving this clunker?
No,
and
there was that.
And Johnny,
and then I would talk to them about this is how we do it.
Really?
And
did they get it though? Back then,
I have watched them as they've grown up.
But I'm saying back then, when they were kids,
I think they wrestled with it, obviously, because they're looking at, couldn't we have this?
Yeah.
And then
would they compare themselves as their importance based on other kids' vehicles to your vehicle, feeling a little embarrassed?
I can't speak to that for sure, but I do know that they felt, when they talk now, they'll say we never lacked for anything. It was good,
That's
but
good.
they never felt like they were rich kids either. They just, and we taught them about giving early.
Yeah.
We taught them about saving.
Good.
So they'd get an allowance,
That
but
is
we would
good.
talk about, okay, this much comes out
That's
for
so
God,
good.
this
That's so
comes
good,
out
man.
and goes to savings, and
That is so good.
so, I see the value in it. But what I'm saying is I think part of becoming men is so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're honest.
Yeah.
It's not like you fall into it. And guys that think they're going to just be masculine, man's man because they dress cool or because they're handsome or because they're strong and they've worked out in a gym, they don't understand that it goes so much deeper. And
I love that.
You pay a price.
A price.
To truly be
A man.
a man's man.
I love that.
Yeah, you really do. You
Love that.
You treat women with deep dignity and respect.
Yeah, I love that.
You make choices about your finances. You make choices about how you treat elders.
I love that.
By the way, more respect, a little, please, because
Well, I don't see you as an elder, Pastor Jeff. You're my peer. I mean, I don't know if you're watching this. Maybe you're watching this podcast. Doesn't he look handsome? I mean, Richard Gere has nothing on this man.
So now we understand a little bit better why he needs to continue to work on the masculinity thing to be like at a level of maturity where he's not lying.
I didn't mention it, but he did give me a kiss before this podcast started. I wanted to add that.
I did actually not. But it is interesting how culturally we'll embrace things that just aren't true.
Yeah.
That.
Gotcha, yeah.
You can't touch each other because you're men.
No hugs, no.
Yeah, or you got to drink coffee black, or things that I got when I was a kid. Like you said, you never cry.
Yeah.
You don't show emotion.
Yeah.
You act tough. Those things are cultural. They're not character.
Yeah.
And to weed through some of that is every culture has to do that. But I think, I feel encouraged because I know a lot of true men.
I love that.
Masculine.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Good guys.
Good men.
Yeah.
Good men.
But it's because there's a depth of character in them.
Yeah.
Not because they work out at the gym every day or
Which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I've gone to the gym, as you've heard me say before. I started about 2 weeks ago.
If it makes you feel good.
I just want to brag, everyone. I started going to the gym, and so I just want to say that out loud. But there's nothing wrong with any of those things. Those are good qualities, good traits.
Sure.
Yet that does not define you. It's not, as a man, there's nothing wrong with, I think it does help. I like what you brought up, because in my mind, I would always bring it up to my kids and to other young people. Hey, you want to become a man, you got to work. You got to be responsible. But I stopped short of, and I like what you're bringing up here, because it's not just about, maturity is not just about being quote unquote responsible. Responsibility is important, and I think there's a lot to be said to it. And that could just be a whole podcast on responsibility, because that's so important. I think the pursuit of happiness is when you are responsible. And so there's a lot to that word that I don't want to diminish, but it goes beyond that. Mm-hmm. You're bringing character.
Right.
Because you can be responsible when it comes to your finances. You can be responsible when it comes to your work. You can be responsible when it comes to your health, and still still not have the character.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Maybe you could say it this way. It's about what you're chasing. Mm. So, for example, you're right. Working out at the gym, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
And it requires a level of discipline and consistency, and does pay results. But what are you chasing in the end? And a lot of times what's being chased is, I just don't want to look like a fat slob, or I don't want to look like old, or I want to have money, or I want to have, I want to be happy. And I think sometimes it's not wrong to do those things.
Yeah.
It's just that, are you chasing the character?
That's good.
Because there is a difference.
That's good.
You can have money and look really good and be ripped,
Yeah.
but not have character.
Yeah. Integrity. When you say character, you're talking about integrity.
I'm talking about
courage.
integrity and a deep commitment to do the things that are right,
Yeah.
even when it's hard, and that don't pay off
Immediately.
right.
Yeah.
That you have to go to day 31
Yes. To see the results.
right.
So I hope that is encouraging to some parent out there that you've been sowing, meaning when we use a lot of metaphors in the Christian realm, sowing meaning that you're investing a lot of your time, investing a lot of your energy. If you're a parent out there and you say like, I don't see results right now, maybe you're on day 10 with your teenager and you see that you're saying no to them when every other parent might be saying yes, and they're best friends and they're besties.
Mm-hmm.
And your kid says, I hate you because my friend and their parents allow them to do whatever they want, but you don't. You are a dictator. You are horrible. You are bad. I wish you were like so-and-so parent that allows them to do things. Well, we want to encourage those parents and say, hey, listen, you
Yes.
might be on day 20. You're not seeing right now the payoff, but the payoff is coming.
It is. I can vouch for that
Yeah.
truth. I say about girls are tougher to raise than boys in a way, because boys are just like, oh, da, da, da. They, I don't know, it's interesting. But girls are like, I don't know how to do this, and then you have this princess that you've always had. She's like there, she loves you. Daddy, daddy, comes running, gets in your lap. And then your princess, depending on the age, like we had 3 of our 6 children were girls.
Wow.
And my princess turned into an evil ice queen at age 11. And I'm like,
Ice
I
queen.
have lost her.
Yes.
And the other one's a little bit older, but all 3 of them, my princess went away.
Oh, wow.
Here's what's interesting is that we knew that we just had to stand our ground
Yes.
and love them, but stay committed. And every single one of them wrote me a letter somewhere after the age of 18 saying, I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
I know it was hard, but you did the right thing, and you have been a good dad, and mom has been an amazing mom.
Wow.
And I guess what I'm saying is I can vouch for this.
That's good.
Racing after character, chasing character,
That's good.
integrity, long-term right stuff,
Yeah.
it does pay.
There's a good payoff at the end.
Yeah.
Now, can you share the story that you shared with us? Maybe it's a little too personal, but you told us about your daughter who wanted to go out on an expedition of some sorts.
Ann just reminded me when I was talking about it that she had been 18, but she was still living at home and under our authority was headed to college. She wanted to do a summer trip where she and a friend of hers rode a bike and tinted all the way from Michigan to the Gulf of Mexico down in Louisiana.
Come on.
And it sounds, of course, all exciting to them. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it is exciting.
Young, beautiful girls
Yeah.
on bicycles, camping alone.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yes. And I'm like, I don't think so, honey. This is not a good idea. No. And I tried to be gentle and nice about it. I did learn this from that experience. You're better off just saying up front, no, that's not going to happen. Because I tried to be gentle, and she was thinking I was waffling. And finally, we just had a talk one day. I'll never forget it, in the kitchen in our house, and the same house we live in now. And I just said, no, if you're living in this house under my authority, that is nuts.
Wow.
I'm not going to let you go and get hurt in some way.
I love that.
And so
I love that.
She actually felt like she hated me, and she looked at me with hate, and then she didn't even talk.
Your princess. This is your princess.
Oh, yeah. Well, she had left my princess had been gone for a little
For
while.
a while
but,
now.
But she was still, of the 3, she was still the sweetest through all of it. And she didn't even talk to me for days. I mean, she was just cold and angry and felt wounded and betrayed by us as parents. And I remember saying to Ann, I hate this. And Ann's like, I do too. Are we sure we're doing the right thing? And we both agreed, yes.
Yes.
We would not, we cannot put our approval on this.
Okay, that's courage right there.
Yeah.
You had to have courage.
Yeah, you do, because your kid is telling you, you're, like you had said earlier, you're
Yeah.
horrible, you're a dictator,
Yeah.
who are you? And the interesting thing was, years later, and this is just a number of years back, I had that daughter, Beth, up on the platform at our church and interviewed her about what our relationship had been like, where I'd dropped the ball, and she was honest about stuff. But I brought that time up, and I said, "You really hated me then?" She said, "I did."
Wow.
And I just said, "Was I wrong? You've got 2 girls. Would you let them go?"
On that,
She said,
on that trip, on the
on
the
that
bicycle.
kind of a trip. And she goes, "Heck no. You were absolutely right. But that didn't stop me from hating you in the
I
moment."
love that. I love that. But you know what? If you're a parent right now and you've got kids and they say, "I want to stay up late because everyone stays up late. Everyone stays with so and so. They stay together and they go to the
Right.
friend's house and they do all that stuff." And you say, "No, you're not doing it." Chances are, or you're not dating that kid. You're just not gonna. It's not gonna happen. That kid shows up and you see him and they just the hairs on your spine just stand up and there's just something wrong with that kid. And you tell your daughter, "No, you're not doing it." And we're talking to men right now. That takes courage.
It does.
It just takes courage, and that's back again to the whole character thing. And let me just say, I'm just going to throw a little something in there when it comes to this generation. This generation is looking for someone that would do that for them, that would say, "Look, this is what's good for you. This is not good for you. I am not allowing this in this household." And they're looking desperately for it. They say
They need it.
They need it, absolutely. They want it, and they want a man that can be a man of integrity,
Right.
of courage, that can protect, that can stand with character. And so all of this, by the way, all of this are not based on emotion.
Right.
Everything we've just described right now.
It actually fights emotion.
Yes. It's the contrary. It's countercultural because the culture says if it feels good, it must be good, right?
Yeah.
And do what makes you feel good.
Yep.
And we're saying no. Many times you're not going to feel good. Many times when you're saving and you're budgeting or you're telling your kids no or you're standing up for your wife and loving your wife as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And dying for her. That's what Jesus said. And we go back again to the scriptures, right? We're pastors and we've talked a lot, but if I can bring back to the truth, the Bible says that a man ought to love his wife like Christ loved the church.
Right.
And die for her. Jesus died for the church. We men must die for our wives. And I always thought, to me it was funny because I thought, well, Jesus died once for the church. You know,
This
where
woman's making me die every day.
every day. It reminds me of the fact that it takes character. Back
Yes.
again to that one word, character. And boy, would this world be a whole lot better if men had that character, that maturity in loving their wives, dying to themselves
Yes.
every day.
Yes.
Every day. And showing them love and saying, "Yes, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to honor you. I'm here to love on you." And it doesn't feel good at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then the reward comes later.
Yep.
The payoff, right?
Yep.
And then the kids are watching this, right? And now they're seeing manhood in front of their face, in front of their eyes. I think that's important. I have a few surveys here, like a little statistics, and then we're going to start wrapping it up. But I wanted to bring this up because I found it interesting. According to GQ, 59% of men consider themselves completely masculine. Which I found interesting. 40% of men consider themselves masculine with at least some feminine traits. I like that. I wonder where they came up with that. Like some feminine traits, meaning like maybe they like to give
Maybe they're more gentle. Who knows?
hugs. I don't know.
Yeah.
According to a 2017 Pew Research Center survey, 9% of men say it's very important to them personally to be seen by others as manly or masculine. Only 9%, which is interesting. I would have thought that would have been higher than that.
Mm-hmm. In my generation, it, without question, would have
Right.
been way higher.
31% of men say they are very manly or masculine. Only 31%. That's 30%? My goodness. Out of 100, only 30% say they are very manly or masculine. Back again to the whole confusion of what is a
The
man.
culture we live in, yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, quick questions. Is it okay for men to cry? I hope by now you should know the answer, and the answer is...
The answer is no, never.
Absolutely
Be
never.
a man. No, actually, it takes more courage to show emotion than
Yes.
it does to hide it. I can tell you that.
I think so too. The other question would be, how does a boy become a man? That's a harder one, I think, because it's a process.
That's why I was saying I think it's about what you're chasing.
Yeah.
You know, are you chasing success? Are you chasing money? Are you chasing women? But when you're chasing the right thing,
What is the right thing?
well, it comes down to integrity,
Character.
acting with honesty and with respect and love. Of course, Jesus said, greater love, you talked about this just a second ago with your wife, Scripture says, greater love has no one than to lay down their life
For his friend.
for a friend.
Yeah.
And there's something powerful in that because you lay down your life not for the return,
Yeah, that's
but
good.
because it is right.
That's good. That's what Jesus did.
And when young men or boys begin to embrace this, I do this because it's right, not because I'll get a great job at the end of it, or I'll get applauded, or I'll get more followers.
That's good.
Not for the dopamine,
Yeah.
but for the character strength,
That's
the
good.
doing what's right. My gosh, there's something so powerful in that. But it's probably why Jesus called it the narrow way,
I love that.
because it doesn't provide a lot of incentive.
Or fast payoff.
Exactly, right. That immediate,
Yeah.
the dopamine isn't
Yeah.
really a factor.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
you keep walking this path.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely love that. I think back again to this whole concept, I like the way you brought it because I had not seen it that way. I can be a little too pragmatic at times. So pragmatism would be, hey, get a job, go to the gym.
What gets results?
Yeah, get some testosterone going there, but just go to the gym, lift some weights. We'll get just testosterone boosted up even higher. You feel
Right.
good about yourself and all these stuff.
Get
right?
stuff done.
Yeah, just to get stuff done. But I think you brought up a good point, which is, hey, let's start focusing on character. Let's focus on the development of maturity, which is that word you brought up at the beginning. If I am a boy, and the boy ought to, which needs to intentionally grow, it doesn't happen by osmosis. Like it just gets transferred from one man to another man. It certainly helps being around men that are
Right.
real men,
Right.
because then you see the character
You have the
and you
example.
see the example, and it certainly helps. But then it is one's choice to say, I want to grow up.
Yeah.
I want to grow.
Yeah, you can't blame immaturity on your parents or
Yeah.
your
It's my dad
circumstances.
lack of being
Yeah.
here, and he was never around.
right. You
Yeah, absolutely.
choose what you chase.
Absolutely. It goes back into the whole heart thing.
Yes.
It goes to the heart.
Yes.
So rather than being too pragmatic, we can go to the center of it. It would be that. What are you chasing? Do you really want to grow? If you are a boy, maturity means you need to become a man.
Yes.
Therefore, you need to start working in those areas of character development. You need to, which by the way, disciplining yourself helps in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the pragmatism that we were talking about, or the practicalities of. Finding a job helps in that area, but that's not the area. The area is the heart.
Yes.
It all goes back to the heart.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're trying to be a man of character with a heart that's doing the right thing, you know you got to get a job.
Yeah, correct.
Even if you don't feel like it, even
Correct.
if it's hard, if you don't like where you're at, you know you got to pay your bills, because You don't just walk away from stuff. You do
Yeah.
what's right even when it's hard. So the things you're talking about, you take care of your body or
Yeah.
say it however you want to. But again, the things that make us, the idea of the virtues that are celebrated at a eulogy as opposed to what you put on your resume, which
Correct.
one New York Times writer talked about, those virtues, the eulogy virtues, chase those.
Yeah, it's good.
What are you like relationally? What are you like when it comes to your character and what you do when nobody's watching?
It's good.
What are you like? If you're chasing those, you'll get there.
You'll land well,
But it'll take a while.
but it will take time. The payoff is in the long run.
Right. We're
It's
talking
not
about
immediate.
investing,
It's
not
a good investment.
spending.
And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. Because I see a little, I see someone else getting immediate results.
Yep.
And I want what they have right now.
And you've got all these advertisers who are tweaking you.
Yeah.
You need this.
Yeah, you
So
absolutely.
you're getting it from every direction.
You deserve it. I like that one.
Yeah.
You deserve it. You
Right.
ought to get it. And
Right.
it must be, if it makes you feel good, it must be good.
It must be right.
Yeah, it must be right.
Yeah.
And if everyone else is doing it, then why don't you do it too?
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to our close. So, in conclusion, if you would say something to a man that is struggling to become a man, pardon the pun, or with manhood, what would you tell them right now? Maybe they're already married and they got kids. They're older and they're struggling. What would be one, now back to my pragmatic self, and they could be many
Sure.
things, but what would be something that you would advise them or to encourage them? What we try to do here is we try to encourage people. Yes, we're going to be countercultural, but I hope that as you listen to us, you were not discouraged, but encouraged, because we try to bring life, not just bring the reality, but bring life into everything we give, because Jesus has given us life.
Yeah.
And so we speak out of that. We speak out of that realm of life because Jesus has given us life and love. So what would you tell someone to give them life about, maybe they're struggling with masculinity? They say, man, I can identify with that, Pastor Jeff or Jeff, and I am so struggling with it. I don't got it all together. I struggle with it. I never got the example that I needed to be a man, and now I'm married, I got kids, or I'm on my way to be married, or maybe I'm in a relationship right now, or maybe I want to be in a relationship. What would you say to that man right now?
To put it in a nutshell is not a simple thing. I think most people know what's right, the right thing. I don't think mostly we have to be told what's right. I think mostly we know.
Yes.
And when we fail, we know we failed that. And maybe I would just say, if I could say one thing, get back up.
That's good. I like that.
When you fail, just get back up.
I like that.
There is God's grace.
Amen.
There's God's goodness.
That's good.
Men fail,
Yes. Yes.
but then they get back up.
Yes. I love that.
So I would encourage that.
In other words, don't give up.
Exactly.
You're gonna
Keep chasing the right
I think
things.
you told me that we were talking about marriage, and I know, my goodness, you told me, you said, Vic, do you remember that conversation we had? I called you and I said, I messed up in my marriage, and this is an area where I struggle in my marriage. This is something that my character, or I was talking about my character.
Yeah.
And I said, and I finally I can see it. I can see where I'm going wrong, and I'm just being accountable to you, letting you know this is an area where I'm going to be working on. And then you said, I'm glad you had that breakthrough. I don't want to discourage you, but you're going to screw up again.
I try to be an uplifter.
And I said, well, thank you a lot, Pastor Jeff. But I love that because it gives us an opportunity to say, hey, it's okay to fail at times, but we must get up. I love that.
Yeah.
We must get up and try again. and try again, because the payoff is good.
Day
Always good.
31 is coming, baby.
Day 31 is coming. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoy this. Pastor Jeff and myself, I'm going to say this in a very masculine way. We both love you. God loves you, and we love you. Can't wait to see you soon.